Keeping only a few quality racing pigeons. The maxim "keep only a few racing pigeons, but keep the best you can get" encapsulates an approach focused on quality over quantity when building a racing pigeon flock. At first glance, this philosophy may seem counterintuitive. After all, wouldn't having more birds increase your chances in a race? However, experience has proven there are compelling reasons to keep the flock small and select each pigeon carefully. When starting out in pigeon racing, it can be tempting to acquire a large number of birds. Beginners often think more is better and want to maximize their probability of having a winner. However, maintaining a vast flock comes with downsides that quickly make the hobby unwieldy. By concentrating your time, money and facilities on a smaller team of top pigeons, you set yourself up for success in many ways. Health management. One of the most important advantages of a smaller racing team is the ability to closely monitor each pigeon's health. Racing pigeons are athletes, and must be in peak physical condition to perform their best. They require close attention to nutrition, vaccinations, conditioning and illness prevention. With a large flock, it becomes extremely difficult to give each bird the individualized care it needs. Minor health issues can easily go unnoticed and escalate into major problems that knock birds out of racing condition. Medications have to be administered across a huge number of pigeons, increasing the risks of under or overdosing. And outbreaks of contagious diseases can spread like wildfire through densely packed lofts. By keeping your racing team modest in size, you can devote the proper time to safeguard each pigeon's well-being. Their diet can be optimized with the right feed mixture and supplements. Subtle signs of injuries or illness will be caught early before they worsen. Proper sanitation and quarantine measures will contain any contagions. The bonds you form through working closely with a few birds also helps them stay calmer and avoid stress-related health complications. Making health a top priority lays the foundation for your pigeons to thrive. Training and handling. Another key benefit of a small, selective flock is the ability to intensively train each pigeon. Racing is a highly complex and demanding sport that requires profound instinct, intelligence, and navigational skills from the birds. A deep, patient training regimen is essential to bringing out their innate abilities. This starts with fundamental training as young squeakers, helping them grow accustomed to their handler, the loft, and the area around their home. Short tosses are then introduced and gradually extended over weeks and months to improve strength, endurance and homing ability. Each pigeon's progress and reactions must be closely monitored to identify standouts with potential. Once raced, the pigeons need recuperation time and one-on-one assessment of their performance. Advanced training techniques, like tossing into headwinds or crosswinds, can further develop the skills of your best flyers. However, this comprehensive training process requires extensive time, care and record-keeping per bird. A modest-sized team makes it feasible. The close bonds formed between handler and pigeon in this training also confer a competitive edge. The birds gain trust and respond better to direction. On race days, they are less stressed and more focused on their task. The human touch can make a real difference in bringing out a pigeon's capabilities. With a few select pigeons, you have the opportunity to cultivate these invaluable personal connections. Breeding considerations. For the serious pigeon racer, a long-term goal is producing a line of birds that can win races generation after generation. The only way to accomplish this is through careful, selective breeding. By mating your top hen and cock birds over successive seasons, you can perpetuate and hopefully enhance the traits that made those pigeons excel at racing. This kind of breeding program demands intimate knowledge of your birds' backgrounds, temperaments and abilities in order to choose ideal pairings. It also requires close monitoring of eggs, newly hatched squabs and young birds as they mature. Accurately assessing the success of your pairings requires record-keeping over multiple years. Attempting this with a large flock results in guesswork and random results. But when working with a small number of pigeons, you can make informed, strategic breeding decisions to advance your bloodline. Each generation can improve on the strengths of the last. Over years of patience, expertise and observation, patient breeding enables outstanding race winners to emerge. Cost considerations. As with any pastime involving live animals, pigeon racing demands significant financial investment. Costs start with purchasing high-quality pigeons, which can range from $50 to over $10,000 apiece. Their lifetime care further adds up with expenses like housing in well-constructed, maintained lofts, feed purchases and dietary supplements, veterinary care and medications, vaccinations and preventatives like vitamins, banding and race registration fees, training and racing supplies like baskets and crates, transportation costs to and from race locations. The cumulative costs per pigeon may reach hundreds of dollars annually. Thus, A modest-sized loft of say 10 to 30 birds represents major expenditure. Expanding to vast numbers of pigeons causes costs to skyrocket, often beyond what hobbyists can reasonably afford. By focusing resources on a select few pigeons, you maximize return on investment. The highest quality care and training becomes feasible. And since every bird has true potential, expenses are more likely to translate into racing success. Being judicious with funds ensures the sport remains enjoyable long term. Time commitment and complexity. Raising and racing pigeons represents a major time investment. Between daily feeding and loft cleaning, training regimens, race logistics, performance tracking, and health monitoring, pigeon keeping becomes almost a full-time endeavor. Caring for a small flock of the highest caliber birds is already intensive. But for large flocks with hundreds of pigeons, the sheer complexity becomes unmanageable. No amount of passion can summon the 200+ hours per week of work such a loft would require. Even with assistance, the logistics spiral out of control. The wisdom of minimizing flock size becomes clear here. With a modest number of birds, the workload remains thorough yet feasible for one dedicated pigeon keeper. You retain control over every aspect of selective breeding, training and care. Record keeping is straightforward. And most importantly, you avoid burnout from being overwhelmed with time-consuming management of too many birds. Pigeon housing dynamics. Another reason to keep pigeon numbers low relates to housing dynamics within the loft. Each pigeon requires adequate space for movement, perches, and nest boxes. They are territorial social creatures and can behave aggressively if their living space feels cramped. In overcrowded lofts, weaker pigeons may get bullied and dominated by stronger ones for resources. The hierarchy leads top birds to claim the choicest areas of the loft, while others get marginalized to suboptimal spaces. Weaker flyers may even get squeezed out of landing areas and perches. By limiting the loft population, you allow every bird sufficient room and equal access. Less jostling for position reduces injuries and feathers lost to pecking. Nest boxes can be spaced well apart to minimize squabbles. And the reduced competition and social stress helps create conditions where all your pigeons can thrive in harmony. Focusing on quality. The underlying ethos behind keeping just a few select pigeons is a focus on quality above all else. Many novices are tempted to simply accumulate large quantities of pigeons in the hopes of increasing odds of having a winner. But this scattershot approach is far less effective than cultivating a small team purely for quality. With patience and due diligence, it's possible to source pigeons descended from long lines of elite racing stock. Look for birds out of past champions, from respected breeders, with track records of speed and endurance. Use every resource to identify the best bloodlines and keep networking until you locate pigeons up to your standards. While expensive upfront, such elite pigeons are worth the search and investment. Not only can they spread their winning genes in your breeding program, they pass vital skills, intelligence and work ethic on to the next generation. Surrounding your top bird with others of low character is a wasted opportunity. It takes discernment to see past quantity and focus on each pigeon's untapped potential. But champion birds are too special to simply settle for mediocrity in your loft. By maintaining high standards, your few select pigeons will reward you many times over through their performances. Avoiding pitfalls of mass pigeon keeping. History shows us that cases of pigeon fanciers accumulating vast flocks almost inevitably end badly. The sheer number of birds becomes an uncontrollable burden, leading to neglect, illness, and declining care standards. One extreme example is the case of notorious hoarder Gary Roberts of Orange County, who amassed over 10,000 pigeons. Despite his deep passion, the monumental scale of care eventually exceeded his physical and monetary means. With massive overcrowding, illness ran rampant and many birds starved or became emaciated. Animal control was forced to intervene after complaints, humanely culling the flock down to a couple hundred birds in healthy condition. While an extreme case, it illustrates the realities of keeping racing pigeons responsibly. Once you drift beyond a modest, manageable number of birds, their welfare suffers along with racing performance. It becomes tempting to cut corners that can turn into major issues down the road. Only by limiting flock size can each pigeon get what it truly needs to thrive and achieve success. Conclusion. The maxim "keep only a few racing pigeons, but keep the best you can get" may seem counterintuitive to some beginners. But experienced pigeon racers will attest to the great wisdom behind this principle. A modest-sized loft of carefully selected top pigeons makes possible an entirely new level of health, training, bonding, breeding, cost efficiency and performance. By focusing on quality over quantity, you transform pigeon racing from a chaotic numbers game into a true art and science. Patience and discipline is required to build up an elite nucleus of birds generation by generation. But the outcomes make the effort supremely rewarding. The deep satisfaction of seeing your carefully nurtured champions test the limits of speed and endurance is unmatched. Beyond the rewards of racing, these special pigeons become treasured companions. The bonds forged through patient work with a few select birds last a lifetime. Each one has unique qualities, merits and history that make it irreplaceable. By embracing the philosophy of small and selective flocks, you open yourself to pursuing excellence in the sport of racing while making lifelong feathery friends.